Today on The Trail, in an exclusive interview with Barack Obama on Sunday, I caught up with him in the battleground state of North Carolina, and I started by asking him about Colin Powell's endorsement and if the general had any advice or given him any advance notice.
No. We had obviously sought his endorsement for a long time. This is exactly what he told me. He said, Barack, I know you, I know John McCain. You're both friends of mine. I think you're both fine public servants. I think that this election is so important that I'm just going to watch what you guys do. I'm not going to make a decision early. I want to see how people respond. I'm going to watch the debates, and I'll make a decision after that. And I did not speak to him until after he appeared on Meet the Press.
Which begs the question, as you talk to him afterward to thank him, I would imagine,
Absolutely.
Do you then say, Secretary Powell, it'd be great to see you out on the campaign trail over these next 16 days?
You know, I won't lie to you. I would love to have him at any stop he wants to participate in. I did, and I think that this is an example of why General Powell is admired. He said, look, I'm not a politician, and I don't want to go out there and hit the stump. That's just not what I do. I think it's best for you and John McCain to duke it out. Obviously, if he wants to show up, he's going to have an open invitation.
He told Tim Russert back in 2007 he really didn't have any intention of getting back into politics, at least for an elected office. But he said, I've always got my ear open for the call to serve, which also begs the question, would you like to find a role for him if you're lucky enough to be elected?
Well, I think here's what I can say for certain. He will have a role as one of my advisors. He's already served in that function even before he endorsed me. Whether he wants to take a formal role, whether there's something that's a good fit for him, I think is something that he and I would have to discuss.
Let me ask you about another recent endorsement. The Washington Post, in endorsing you, they were very tough on John McCain, saying anyone who talks about national security and says he feels as deeply about it couldn't have chosen Sarah Palin as someone who is a heartbeat away from the presidency. And I know you've been asked it, but Senator, I've never heard you come right out and say, is she qualified to be president today?
I am going to let the American people decide on that. Frankly, I just don't know enough about Sarah Palin. I haven't heard a long discussion
even the
about
Chicago
foreign
Tribune,
policy.
Historically a very conservative paper from
Yes.
your hometown,
Yes.
in endorsing you,
Yeah.
was critical of McCain, saying Sarah Palin is not ready.
Look, I'm running against McCain-Palin. Anything that I say about Governor Palin will be seen through that lens. I don't need to add to people's assessments. Let the voters and observers make their own judgments in terms of who's qualified.
Let's talk about Iraq. Iraqi officials and U.S. officials are negotiating a deal, and they're pretty close apparently, where U.S. troops would be withdrawn from Iraq at the end of 2011.
Right.
You've already said you want 2010
Right.
as a date. So does that piece of paper, if it's formalized, become meaningless if there's a Barack Obama presidency?
No, I don't think it becomes meaningless.
The Washington Post, again, in endorsing you, did say that your call for defined timelines to get the troops out was perhaps a critical flaw, and that it could cost us the security that has been hard fought over this last year.
Keep in mind, as Commander-in-Chief, my job will be to keep the American people safe, which means that if I ever make a determination that the American people will be safer by me making adjustments, I will make those adjustments because that's my job. My assessment right now is that in 16 months we can have our combat troops out. We will still have a residual force there.
When you and the smart people in your campaign get together on the plane or wherever and you crunch the numbers and you look not only at the national polls but state by state in the battleground states, do you see a path to victory for John McCain?
There's no doubt. I mean, we think that the race will tighten just because that's what happens at the end of campaigns. They always have, even when there are substantial leads. And in each of these battleground states, you've got a lot of close races. One of the messages that I've had to my team is that we don't let up. We do not let up.
There are political strategists out there who say, you know what you should be doing right now? You should get on a bus. You should go across the country simply waving out the window. You should avoid interviews with guys like me. You should avoid any spontaneous interaction. With just over 2 weeks until Election Day, On the trail, Senator Obama says his campaign is still making its case to voters and hasn't forgotten the lesson from the primaries.
You remember we had those big leads. We had gotten 11 wins in a row against Senator Clinton. I think there was this sense of, okay, that things are kind of working out, and thought that we could just ride momentum, and we ended up getting our head handed to us. Every time we've gotten in trouble in this campaign, it's because we started trying to play ball control offense.
Senator Barack Obama on the campaign trail in North Carolina. We're going to have